Hi, my name is Sabrina Ichio, and throughout my time here in London the past few weeks, I've explored the role of women in World War I. I was curious to find out how women contributed to the war efforts because it's not a subject we spend much time on in school. I started with analyzing both the Florence Nightingale and Edith Cavell monuments, then finished off by examining some British World War I propaganda posters from the Imperial War Museum. I was astonished to find the amazing work women contributed and how little recognition they received. Patricia Farah, a professor from Clare College, states in her journal Women's Science and Suffrage that the women who were remembered for their war efforts were those who played traditional women's roles. These roles include nurses, secretaries, and being mothers of the household. Both the Nightingale and Cavell monuments stayed true to Farah's argument because they were both praised for their work in traditional roles as nurses. But in visiting the monuments themselves, I then understood that there was so much more the monument was trying to convey, other than their role as a nurse. Florence Nightingale's monument, built in 1910, honors every aspect of her life. She did amazing work on the front line tending to wounded soldiers. Much of her life was dedicated to this extremely difficult and gruesome work. She worked into the night and became a figure of the Victorian age. She then began to pave the path for women in the field of nursing. She established her own nursing school and advocated for higher education in the field. But Florence Nightingale did so much more than pave a path for nursing. There were many other aspects to her as a person, as her memorial projects. Each side of the memorial touches on a different way Nightingale contributed to society. One side, of course, shows her caring for the injured and wounded in battle. Another shows how she was very involved and interested in politics by negotiating with government officials. She is also portrayed talking to medical and hospital authorities to show her willingness to expand her medical circle. On the last side, it shows her teaching inspiring nurses and depicts how she left a lasting impact even after her death. Despite the path she paved for modern hospitals and being a woman who radically impacted and progressively pushed for women in higher education and skilled work, Vera claims that the traditional masculine culture once more prevailed in medical schools, which again closed their doors to women. Edith Cavell's monument at first sight looks very tall and elegant in manner. Cavell is most notably known for helping wounded soldiers as a nurse, but she was believed to be a nurse for both sides and did not see color when it came to a wounded soldier. She truly wanted to be a nurse purely on the notion that she loved to help people in time of despair. When asked why she helped wounded soldiers on both sides, she responded, "I can't stop while there are still lives to be saved." Edith Cavell did not discriminate against any and had only good, pure intentions to help save lives. The monument of Edith Cavell pays tribute to all aspects of her life, much like Nightingale's. Her monument gives you a sense of how brave Cavell was. She is celebrated for saving about 200 Allied lives and putting hers in danger as well. She helped them escape German-occupied Belgium, but was then caught and tried with treason and was shot by a German firing squad. She dedicated her life to helping soldiers in war. All the different sides of the monument are dedicated to her humanity, fortitude, sacrifice, and devotion to her service in helping others. But do these monuments have a deeper meaning to them? Of course, they're here to commemorate their efforts in the war, but some could look at these monuments in a controversial way. Many thought that the Cavell's monument could be seen as propaganda against Germany and their harsh actions against Cavell. It started to bring about questions whether the motives behind this monument were genuine in commemorating Cavell, or maybe to proclaim the barbarous actions of German soldiery. This isn't the only form of woman used in propaganda during World War I. Jo Fox, a British historian, wrote an article from the British Library on women in World War I propaganda. She states that propaganda tended to depict women as guardians of the home, their gentle nature, and their vulnerability, making them both objects of men's affection and the victims of enemies' barbarous acts. As seen in this poster of propaganda, it depicts a small girl and a baby, helpless in front of a destroyed home. The poster says 78 women and children were killed. and 228 women and children were wounded by German raiders. Enlist now. Instead of being seen as strong and powerful, women and children were used as broken, helpless figures as a way to get men to enlist in the army. Women were constantly being portrayed as incapable and defenseless through British propaganda. Meanwhile, the man stands tall and proud, defending his country. This poster depicts a woman and her traditional role unable to defend herself. Much like Fox states, women were represented as victims of the enemy's attacks. Before any research, I would have been one of those ignorant people who viewed women in their traditional roles. I was completely wrong. Women were advancing in medicine, science, technology. They were mass producing resources, and of course they played roles as nurses and secretaries, but at the same time holding down the fort till the men came home from war. Not to forget how relentless these women were to fight for their rights. It's because of these strong women, for example, the suffragettes, that I now live in a world where I can vote, receive a higher education, and overall live a better quality of life, not being afraid that being female could ever hold me back.